Oh, okay. Well, we might have to start without Paleo. He'll probably join us here in a bit, so let's go ahead and get cracking. Hey guys, welcome to Brony Breakdown. I'm Saberspark, and with me here is... You son of a bitch.
Is BVids.
Let me just die some more, man.
I'm just so entranced by this cat. I can't keep my hands on me. No, but
Excuses.
yeah, I'm Bronyvids, BVids, whatever you can call me. The one true Brony.
The king of
one
all.
True.
Well,
one true fedora wearer. But I don't even own one.
The one bag of Cheetos, the rule of them all. Alright, yeah, but BVids here, he has a show with Jay Holler called Post My Video here on Everfree Network, but BVids is joining us tonight because, well, tonight's a special night. The Brony Chronicles Part 1 was released earlier today, and BVids here is one of our editors who helped us to put the video together and also to render it out. We had a lot of render issues, and we'll talk about that later on here in the episode, but for tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to live stream the actual doc. And I'm sure some of you have already seen it, but we're going to go ahead and stream it for those who want to have a live stream event of the documentary. And then afterwards, we'll do a Q&A via the tumblers. So, and Paleo himself, he's here. His power went out. He should be back here in about an hour or so, I'd give or take. He should be back soon. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this going. BVids, anything you want to say before we get this going?
No, if you've seen it before, don't spoil it for people who, you know, if something's coming up or something, I guess. There's not too much to spoil anyways, but hopefully you enjoy it.
Oh, Paleo's back.
There it is.
I need to switch.
Generator ran out of gas.
Did you fill back up?
Yeah.
So you good to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Should be good for the next couple hours or so.
Well, I just went ahead and got things set up. I'm going to switch over to the other Skype so I can talk to you all there and everything. Go ahead and say what you guys want to say before I move the Skype calls. Anything you want to say, Paleo, to the audience before we get going?
Did you guys already go over why it took so long?
Well, just rendering issues, and we'll talk more about details afterwards.
Yeah, I guess so.
I just want to say that Sonic Theodore Rainbow Dash the Third gives Saber and BVids 7 Chaos Muffins each. That guy.
What?
The guy in the chat. He just keeps giving us his Chaos Muffins. I don't even know.
When the Sonic fandom meets the Pony fandom, the universe implodes on itself. Alright guys, that is the Brony Chronicles Part 1. Thank you all so much for whoever contributed or supported us throughout the way. I cannot tell you, can express my gratitude. And to those who helped us with the doc. We still have 2 more parts to go, so the journey isn't over yet. This is just the beginning. In Part 2, I cannot give you a hard number of when it will be complete, of an exact date. But we're hoping maybe like a month or a month and a half from now. We'll see what happens. We got a lot of work to do. But thank you all for watching. All right, for now we'll do our Q&A. How's it sound?
Yep. Let me get here. I will post.
You need me to pause the chat?
Yeah. Let me get the Brony Chronicles Tumblr,
sure.
And I'll just
I'll get a picture of the show in the meanwhile. Brony Chronicles logo. Where's our logo at?
It's under it's in the Dropbox. It's under resources, then original, or pictures, then original pictures.
There we go. Alright, there we go. Indeed. What you watching in the background, BVids? Apparently some cowboy movie. Like 1950s thugs or something. All right, so we'll open up the Tumblr for Q&A. Paleo, how's it starting? How's it look right now?
Yeah. If you can pause the chat, I'll put it in there.
We only got 2,000 views from our video. Oh.
Oh.
That's it? We worked over you! Alright. What did you say, Paleo?
It's actually frozen again.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's frozen. Yeah.
Actually, that's a kind of a cool sign. Wow, we got 24 retweets on that. Nice. Alright, so what were you asking now, Paleo?
To pause the chat. So I
Oh.
can put the thing.
Alright, guys, I'm pausing the chat here. Alright, Paleo, set your thing.
There is the Brony Chronicles Tumblr, so you
Y'all
can
can
go
go
and
there.
ask questions.
Yup.
Anything that is not answered, I'll answer on the Tumblr. So.
Alrighty. There you go. Did I not do that right? Uh-oh, I done goofed.
I think you did.
You didn't see anything. I did it. Shut up, Barry Punch. I saw it.
It is hard.
Oh yeah, also anything not related to the documentary I'm going to delete.
Yeah, we want it to be documentary focused if possible, please.
Possible.
The hipster brothers.
Lay down your guns.
We actually might break 2,000 likes before the night's over.
Cool. Also, I might die because I'm
I thought
running
you
on
actually meant
right-
IRL.
No,
Oh.
no, my connection might die because my power might go out again. Because I'm running on a generator right now because there was a big storm that came through.
I think it rocked me like a hurricane tornado. Something like this here. Alright, are there any questions yet?
Yeah, there are.
Let's do about 30 minutes of questions and then we'll close this out.
Okay. How much time did it make? How much time did it take to make this specific part?
Well,
Technically, since last May.
yeah, it's just like it's crazy how much this thing changed when we first came up with it. Because at first, like, we didn't have a name for it. We didn't know it'd be funded. We didn't know we'd go to these conventions. We didn't know we'd have that many interviews. We didn't realize it would be that long. We didn't realize it'd be split into 3 different parts. We didn't know we'd actually pick up really talented visual artists, have original music. We didn't realize that we'd have competition. We didn't realize that we'd have any of that stuff. But it's just kind of like you can plan and try to come up with an idea, but it's going to change along the way. Because opportunity will show up. There'll be bumps in the road. It's kind of like crafting a piece of clay. It's going to change.
You become stronger through it, and you learn lessons along the way,
Yes,
especially that you can apply to the next time you work on a dock like this.
Yep.
The next part, for instance.
Like getting the things ready to where it could render out properly.
Yeah.
Y'all want to talk about that?
Yeah. So originally we were going to have this out on Monday.
Yeah.
But
Had to re-render so many times.
yeah.
Oh, and for those who wonder, BVids is with us right now because he's the guy who helped Paleo and myself render this video, and he actually rendered and uploaded the final cut. And he also helped with a lot of the editing in the documentary with the title overlays and the chalkboard visuals and a lot of other things. So that is why he is here with us currently talking about the documentary.
Yeah.
So as you all were saying?
Well, I was only stating that the second part of the doc is going to be a lot easier, I think, with the type of editing these guys have in mind, because they know now, like, where they're headed with it and what they necessarily want to do. That's about it. I mean,
And a lot of people have also gotten the hang of what they need to do, like music and visuals and it shows that the team works well together. Like, we haven't had any problems with our team. Everybody's been so willing to help out one another, and that's a really awesome blessing. Like, we're very lucky we have such a happy and willing team to work with us.
Yeah.
Volunteers, nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. Chris Musics. Better pay me double, Saber. Double steaks.
You get double hugs at Fiesta Equestria.
Oh, okay.
You get 2 bowls of Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Oh, well, as long as I get to eat them with no shirt on while watching the show, obviously.
Okay, let's see. Paleo, why come you no narrate? I love your voice. One reason is because I don't have a very good mic, and I think Saber has a better narrator voice than my voice. So
in the long run, actually, I mean, originally we were both thinking about both narrating it, and then we kind of realized that that's kind of difficult to do. Like, jumping back and forth, it's kind of like, you might as well just stick with one person, just go with it. Instead of, what's that?
I was just going to say, at any point, did you guys try to find someone outside of you two to, like, you thought, like, maybe we could get someone else to voice act it? Like, were you going, like, that route at any point?
I was thinking about it, and I was kind of scoping some people out.
I had actually met somebody, part of the NC Bronies group, that actually had a really interesting voice, and I'm like, your voice sounds like a narrator, because like he had that, like, I don't know, I just call it a narration voice because it kind of just kind of sounded like, and he was very well spoken too. So
yeah,
we had some other people. Oh, I had some people message me today saying, "Hey, I'm a narrator. I can help narrate for the second part, third part."
All right.
What's that?
Okay. Sorry, that was my dad.
Whenever you do your internet voice, make sure that it sounds like you're in the movies.
I'll go with the David Attenborough voice next time, just Planet Earth it up. But, I mean, my voice isn't the best for narration. I can do it. But there are other people out there who are much more talented, and they know how to speak clearly and not slur and sound so groggy. And I tried my best, and I'm going to keep improving. And just since we already started this with myself, we're probably going to finish it with me, unless something changed. I mean, it's never set in stone. For all I know, David Attenborough's nephew might be like, I'm interested in narrating the documentary. Like, well, by all means. But it was easier for us, just for me to narrate it and go ahead and just knock it out. And I bought all the equipment I needed for it out of my own pocket, like mic stand, the Blue Yeti, and all that stuff. So it was also a little bit of a personal challenge. I'm like, I'm ready to get back to narrating and doing things like this because I enjoy it. I'm not the best at it. I'm probably a better writer. And
you should also lay down the guideline right now and be like, hey guys, just because ads play at the beginning of the video doesn't mean it's monetized. These guys aren't making any money off this video, so they're doing it for the fans, not for the money.
Oh yeah, this is fair use to the highest degree. We're not making a cent.
Yeah.
Not a cent. Here, I'll screen cap it right now.
So unlike other documentaries that charged you, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
Let's not be so mean to other docs that came before, because you know they did what they set out to do.
And the monetization option isn't even available. So yep, no money, not a single penny, and that's fine. We never set out to make any money at all, so this is fine. All right, next question.
Let's see. There's something about Fuzogs. Is Fuzogs uploading the full version of the opening song? That is. It should be up sometime this week, whenever he uploads it. So.
He said in the next couple of days. He's getting some original art done for the cover, so.
Oh, cool.
Whenever that's done. But you expect it soon. It's a really great song, and there's a full version of it too.
Yeah, he played it at Equestria LA, so if you were there and you heard it, it's really good.
You'll enjoy it.
Side one too is that BVids coming back too, and the first video he's uploading is the intro to the doc. So if you wanted to watch that on repeat, just over and over and over again, look out for BVids' new channel.
Do you have a link to it?
Yeah, let me pull it up really quick.
and toss into the chat so people can go subscribe to him. Just so you all know, Feedsy was the guy who he created the intro visual with the ponies and the abstract like circles and orbs, and he was the one who originally made the Dork PMV, but his channel got shut down because he had a conflict with his school's email address he was using at the time. So the school shut down his email, and that shut down the YouTube account too. So he had to start over with a new channel. There it is, right there, guys. Go subscribe to Feedsy. He's one of the best PMVers in the fandom, and he's a really great guy. So please go subscribe to him.
Okay, let me refresh here, because there's still a lot of questions, but I want to see, like...
I know Feedsy's gonna write on Skype somewhere, be like, why are all these people subscribed to my channel? I haven't even announced anything.
How do they find me?
How?
Okay, here's something interesting.
Spell it right.
Whose idea was it to have General Mumble make over 80% of the documentary's music?
Take it away.
Originally, he was going to make all of it.
But that's once again something that we didn't really intend and planned out 100. Like we planned on it, but things change. Like that's a huge undertaking. And last month we realized how big of an undertaking it really is, and we had to use some of his old songs. And
a lot of the songs in the documentary are actually from his older albums.
Yeah.
That aren't even like pony related at all. They're just his personal music, which actually works really well.
Yeah.
So.
We needed them for the Equestria LA premiere, and then we kind of realized, like, wow, this is just great. Can we just keep this? And then we had Mumble make some new songs for like the character bios and other parts. In part 2, we're going to try to pick up some more musicians to help us out with Mumble, because Mumble can't be expected to do all on his own. But yeah, most of the soundtrack, besides the beginning from Fuzog's, and then the beginning before that with Philly Pooh's piano music, the majority of it is Mumble's.
Okay, here's a good question. Saber, how often did you mess up and have to start over reading on your lines?
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea. Oh.
Hey, get this. At one point, I actually had to tell Saber, hey, your voice sounds a lot better when it's closer to the mic. And he goes, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to be like right up on it pretty much and just talk in a normal tone. He was like, wait, does this sound better? And he got like really close to the mic, and I was just like, yeah, that sounds infinitely better. And he's just like, oh.
And then you suggested you should get a mic stand so you can stand and breathe better when you record. I got a mic stand. I'm like, I can breathe. I can actually speak clearly or much better than before, and I have more energy. I can move my arms and move, and that was a huge improvement. So BVids helped me with that.
Okay, let's see. A small criticism. If this doc isn't just by Bronies for Bronies, but for a wider audience,
Why
I feel
are
that
people getting that? I'm sorry. Just by Bronies for Bronies. We never said that.
Did we? Wait,
No.
in the Kickstarter? I think we said something like that in the Kickstarter.
Did you put that down the Kickstarter?
When we first started out, because we were like,
Did you write a tenant of our entire structure of this talk, and you wrote it in? Oh my god. Why would you do that?
Come on, man.
Why would you do that? I'm crying right now.
No, I guess that was in the fine print. I didn't notice. I don't really feel that way.
Okay, but anyway, let me continue. I feel that the intro/outro music should be either instrumental music or songs that aren't made of song samples where the lyrics aren't actually forming full sentences/words. This make it confusing to people who don't watch MLP and recognize or appreciate the context of the music, if that makes any sense. With instrumental or actual lyrics, non-bronies may appreciate it a bit more.
I don't really follow the question.
They're saying that, like, with the vocal chop songs, that, non-bronies and people who...
Oh.
Yeah, but it's, like, to me, it sounds just like glitch music. Like, I mean, I've heard glitch step, which is, like one of those electronic genres, and it's like, it just takes people's vocal samples and then chops it up to make like a beat out of it, which is exactly kind of what he does. So out of the people I've seen who commented on it who are like, I don't watch the show, but this is pretty cool, like none of them have been like, I don't get the music, man. The jazz is playing too loud, and man.
I showed the song to my mom a while back, and she's like not Brony by any means. Like, even though she's very close to me and knows this pony stuff, she isn't very aware what it's about and what it this is the music and whatnot. So I showed her the song by Fuzog's like a month or two ago, and she just kind of was bobbing her head, and she's like, this sounds like all over the place, and I hear Pink. You know, I said it's Pinkie Pie. She was like, I can hear her voice, and that was all. She just said she said the sound was pleasant to her ears. That's it. So I'm not really worried about that, like with the vocal stuff. I mean, listen. At the end of the day, there's what 7 billion people on this planet. Everybody's going to interpret it different ways. So some people might like they might catch that as a mistake, but not everybody else feels the exact same way. Or I might see a mistake and people be like, "Oh, that was a mistake to me. That seems just fine." So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. People are inevitably
interpreted whatever.
Interpreted.
Whatever.
Interpolated.
Let's see. People are inevitably going to compat. Oh, I think they mean compare. Compare and most likely judge John Delancey's documentary based on yours. Do you have anything you'd like to say about that? I've never seen Delancey's yet.
Well, where to begin?
Well,
You mean, like,
from the
people
comments,
comparing the
from the comments we've been getting, it's been said that this is better than the other one.
We didn't go out. We weren't going out to beat theirs into the ground. We just wanted to make something good. And
We wanted to make our own because we announced ours first.
yeah, we did ours. We started ours first, for crying out loud. It just took us a longer time because we kept having more opportunity and more people wanted to join. Like Mark and Flops, the guy who did the.
Well, keep in mind you didn't have also $360,000.
Yeah, imagine what we could have done with that money.
Disposal.
Kinda,
Bought a lot of blow.
We're going to every convention first class.
We're going to Vegas, guys. Then we can rob
forget-
Unicon and then just boosh.
Just get Battle of the Brony and just put some more music over it, and there you go. No, I mean their doc isn't bad. They had their own idea and their own goals in mind, and they followed people. It was more like an episode of True Life, where while ours was a bit more like. Like, since there's a narrator, I could guide you all through what we're talking about. But the other documentary, you're going from, like, the Bronies who they interviewed, their point of view. And for a lot of people, that might not be very comfortable. Like, when I wrote this, I wanted to make it to where a non-Brony could feel like they're not lost and catch up and know what's going on. Like, that's why for some Bronies, they're like, you know, I've heard this before. You know, this old G1 stuff and lore. And it's like, yeah, of course you have. You're jaded. You've been doing this for a long time. So have I. But we can't just forget about the people who haven't heard about this, and that's the non-Bronies. And if you do want this doc to actually help this fandom in any way, which I'm not saying the Brony fandom needs help, but if it wants to have people who understand it better and see where it's coming from, then you have to let non-Bronies kind of come along for the ride and understand where we're coming from. So, yeah, I don't know. Having a narrator who has a plan, set goal, and idea what we want to show and do helps a lot more than having a bunch of people who are kind of like just telling their life story, which some viewers might not agree with or care about. I don't know.
Okay, here's a couple of questions that are related to each other. How did you guys manage to get all the interviews done, and how long did it take? And also, what kind of process did you all go through for the interviews with the different people? Like, did they come to you, or did you go to them?
Should we just start from BronyCon and keep going forward, or
yeah,
before BronyCon? All right, so I'll tell the first part of the story. Paleo and I decided, let's make a list of people we want to talk to about what they do in the fandom, like music, art, animation, yada yada. And that list was pretty small to begin with, because we thought we'd just do BronyCon every for Northwest, and that was it. And we had the list kind of grew over time after we realized who was going to these cons, and we talked to them on Skype, and we confirmed, like, time slots at BronyCon. Like, that was tedious, like, comparing the BronyCon schedule with our schedule, and getting that just right. For people to come by our hotel room and interview, that was kind of a pain, but it worked out well. We only lost, I think only 2 or 3 people didn't show up for their interviews.
I think the only people who didn't show because they were swamped at booths was UC77, because he was by John Josego's booth. And
Bree Faith didn't show.
Bree Faith, yeah. Those were the two.
She was emceeing.
Yeah.
That was it.
I think so.
And then I feel, and the funny thing is, like, when you do this stuff, sometimes you pick up extra people along the way. Like, did we pick up any extras?
We picked up Solrak.
Solrak was someone we picked up at BronyCon.
Yeah, though he's not in part 1.
Yeah, he'll probably be in part 2 with the voice acting part. Like, and Never Free Northwest. we never planned on talking to Hot Diggity Demon. That was just on the fly. Like, we were supposed to talk to Sethesto, but he didn't make it to his interview on time, and we had some time to kill, and we saw Max walking around, and me and LTT Moose from Equestria Inquirer decided to walk up to Max and say, hey, do you want to join us for an interview about this Brony documentary or whatever? And he said, sure, and I was surprised. I'm like, I thought he'd be very, like, no, but he was very open to it. And
No.
But
I think he puts on a persona that makes him think he's all against it, but I think he just has fun with it.
He was very in-depth. Like, that was one of my favorite interviews, talking to him. It was great. He's a very deep guy who's got I think that's one thing I wanted to make sure we got across is the people who are like, Max isn't a real brony. Well, you know what? He probably really isn't, because your definition of brony and his definition are completely different.
Which you'll see about that in part 3.
Yeah. But he's not a bad guy. He cares more than you think. He really does.
Yes.
Then, from that point on, like, what about Caroline Gardens? What happened there?
I think we just went in and just asked people.
We had a bunch of celebrity interviews that we never really used yet. Like, we'll probably use those later if we can incorporate them, but we got to talk to Amy Keaton-Rogers and Kathy Westluck and Andrew WK.
Yeah.
But we put that up on EFN. There's one with Gray Delisle. Like, I still want to make those work in the documentary. If not, then we'll just throw them up on the channel, and y'all can check them out.
Yeah,
there.
we can use them as footage.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great time. Well, we spoke to some other people that I don't want to reveal yet. There's some more surprises in part 2 of folks we spoke to. Like, we didn't even cover, like, there's a lot of people we interviewed who haven't been shown yet, and you'll see it in part 2 and 3.
Yeah, let's see. Well, guys, how do you feel about the Brony community after working on the doc? After all this time, has your view changed? Have you made mistakes, regrets, memories? Thanks a lot, guys.
I tried so hard and got so far.
So I think, like, going to the conventions and filming, and, like, I think it was kind of like Gardens where we sort of realized what we needed to do. Because after Everfree Northwest and BronyCon, those were sort of the cons where we were like, yeah, this is all amazing and stuff. And then when we went to Caroline Gardens, we were kind of realizing that, you know, let's do this as objective and, you know, as truthful as possible.
Last thing Bronies need is a pat in the back saying, you're awesome, because that just doesn't sell well. Like, that's just prideful and doesn't do anything, doesn't accomplish anything, unless you're pandering to the Brony audience, and even then that's just kind of like, slimy.
I think part 2 may come across a little bit like that, since it's about fan content and whatnot.
Yeah, people with a huge circle jerk, but I can't say on the line, can I?
Yeah.
Too late. But yeah,
but part 3 is definitely going to be a much bigger, like, eye-opener.
That's going to be the one that brings the hammer down, where it's like, here comes the truth! Not to say we're going to bash Bronies either, it's just, we're trying to do this from an objective point of view, where we're only going to report the things that are actually true and worth chatting about and sharing and researching. Yeah. Like, I mean, Roll 34, yeah, that's covered in part 3. The drawing with Hasbro and Equestria girls and all that stuff, yeah, we plan on covering that in part 3. It's worth chatting about. It's worth, you know, we're not going to ignore it. That's why we're doing this in 3 parts: origins, community, and then sociology. And community, like Paleo said, that might come across as a little bit of like the prideful section, but it isn't, because I'm still doing this. Like, the way I wrote this is I want to make it from where I can put a bunch of non-Bronies in front of the room and say, okay, this is what makes this community so different, is that they're so active and they make this stuff. Like, well, I went to that presentation for the GSA. A lot of the people said in the audience, well, why do these guys even do this? Oh, they create? Well, why? I want to hear it from them. And I'm like, well, here you go. There's some great feedback of what non-Bronies would want to hear.
Yeah. Well, part 2 and part 3 have anything focusing on the Brony analysis community, since Brony Curious and yourself, Paleo, are one. Funny thing, for the longest time, I was one of the only people who reviewed the show. And at the time, when we interviewed Brony Curious, nobody knew who he was. He was just our friend. But because at the time, yeah, Brony Curious didn't even have any analysis videos on his channel. That's why we put him down as artist, and then we were like, wait a minute, he's starting to do a bunch of these videos now. So we put him /writer because that's kind of what he wants to be known a bit as, since he's doing the comic and whatnot, and also some fan fictions. So as far as like the analysis thing goes, I don't think we'll be covering that quite as much as like other subjects of fan content, because we're really looking for like fan content as things as such as art, music, like the videos like the ones that you saw for the intro with Feedsy's stuff.
It's weird because there's a section for the longest time where it was kind of grayed out. Like there's art, there's a trifecta, which is like music, writing, and art / animation. And then there's things like voice acting and PMVs and things like that. And then the section that was kind of weird, and it was like the podcast / commentary portion of the fandom, which is like you talk about it. It's like this is the discussion portion of the fandom. And I mean, it's hard to really like EQI. We interviewed them, and they're in that section. But dang, they're so hard to really like break down. It's like they're their own thing. I cannot even tell you like where to put those guys. I guess kind of like commentary / it's almost like the miscellaneous category.
Yeah.
Same thing with AC Race Best and Bronies React. Like, where do you put that? It's just kind of like, if anything, I'd say this is the entertainment portion of the fandom where people discuss it, talk about it, trying to, they can't sing, they can't dance, they can't draw, but they're usually they have stronger show presence where they're good speakers. And then what's up?
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was pretty much done. What's up?
Well, I was actually just going to ask a question, which I thought of, which was, now when you compared your doc to like John Delancey's doc, or the doc that was the Brony doc, do you think that his was more of an observational approach, whereas more like a fly on the wall, and yours is more structured because you have a certain message or a kind of a did you think it was like an approach that you were actually just telling the truth as it is, or that you were trying to get a certain message out there, compared to what like it seemed like in the Brony doc? It was a lot more of just like, here's what we captured on film of these guys going to this convention, and this is like the story, I guess, more or less, that was in front of us. Like, how do you think the two compare on that level? Do you think that one is more like just trying to be observational and just show what's out there, and the other one is more like, here's who we are, here's the message that this whole community kind of creates around itself, and like, what are you exactly trying to cover with the doc as a whole? Like, all three parts are together as some sort of message, or is it like, I'm rambling here, so
no, well, I mean, I guess like ours is more analytical, where we wanted to explain like the origins of the franchise and the pony fandom, and kind of the part one kind of is a little bit of talking about the sociological aspects of Bronies, where we laid the framework where we know that My Little Pony was a very feminine tone and was very pink, and for girls that's why it's so bizarre that when all this stuff started back in 2010, it was just so unheard of. And yeah, I guess there is a set endpoint. Like for John Delancey's and their stuff, the control they have is they can pick who they want to follow, and they can turn the cameras off when they feel like, okay, let's turn the cameras off. But besides that, they're following people around, and those people control with, like, hey, I'm walking around Britain. I got lost on my way to the con. Oh, I got to the con. This was a great con, because that was that one British kid said. And then there's Lyle, that one little kid who his dad wasn't very comfortable with his pony stuff, and he didn't look very comfortable at all at BronyCon. And if I recall, in the aftermath of that, he said his dad watched the show, and he's like, and kind of that was the end of it. But for ourselves, we're like, okay, we want more control. Not to say we're blocking things out, but we're going to go ahead and say we want to discuss about Rule 34. We want to talk about the male versus female sociological aspects of the Brony fandom, why society doesn't like guys who like feminine things. Those are some endpoints I wanted to discuss and share and talk about. So we need a bit more of a hands-on approach. Not to say it's like controlling and we're blocking things out. It's just that in order to get to that endpoint, we need to be able to do our own research and map it out to where we want to go. So Delancey's stuff is like an episode of True Life. Turn the cameras on. That's about it. And you do a little bit of research about what they are about. You know, hey, this is an episode of True Life about furries. You give a little bit of backstory on the furry fandom. Then you turn the cameras on and you follow some furries around. That's about it. For us, if we did one about furries, we'd be like, okay, we're going to give you some real backstory about what this. Like, okay, Planet Earth documentary. David Attenborough is like explaining, you know, this is Planet Earth. This is the geography of the area, the animal species, yada yada yada. He had to explain it so the viewer knows what's going on. Or I know there are animal documentaries out there that just turn the cameras on.
Yeah, they just like show what the animals are doing, and they don't tell you why they're doing it.
No,
Yeah.
see, that's the whole point of the question was, are you trying to just capture reality, or are you more or less trying to get a message out there about why this show even has a following, like the message behind Brony?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like we're trying to answer the question.
Yeah, and that is why do Bronies, what
Why
are
do Bronies exist?
Yeah, why is it even worth talking about? And because a lot of people like the MLP board be like, we're nothing special. And it's like, well, no, actually, I disagree. They're not in a prideful way, but there is something special about this fandom, and that's the subject itself. It's pink, and guys like it. That goes against gender roles. That goes against what society classifies as okay for guys to like and what is okay for girls to like. And we live in a very interesting day and age where a lot of this pink-blue syndrome stuff is starting to fall apart, and Bronies are a big step towards that direction. Because, like, for me personally, I've learned from this fandom that, like, if my son wants to, do something that might be a little bit feminine, that's fine. If I have a daughter who wants to do something that's more masculine, like play football or baseball, that's fine. I'm not going to let society dictate how my children act and what they do and what they feel passionate about. That's something I wanted to get across. And that's something I hope that that goes beyond Bronies. And it's a bigger message where it's like the person watching the doc can say, okay, Bronies are an example of why society tries to dictate how we're supposed to act and why we don't have to listen to that. We can do what we like as long as no one's getting hurt or whatever.
Okay.
I hope that isn't too much of a broad answer.
No, like I get it concisely down as to how is Bronidism like breaking down societal
Norms.
Not boundaries but norms, yeah, of like men following only G.I. Joes and girls only following My Little Pony, and that change that's kind of happened throughout this fandom. I mean, it's
only
not
playing Call of
completely,
Duty and Madden.
it's not completely
Xbox
laid
One.
off. Yeah, I mean, you can't say that this isn't. This is a drop in the bucket, I'll say, towards that goal of equality, more or less. Or there's no blur in that kind of line of, you don't have to follow these societal standards of saying, oh, you can only watch a boy show if you're a boy, you can only watch a girl show if you're a girl.
Well,
So-
I mean, like, for an example, a quick example, I talk about this in part 3. For the longest time, there has been always that nerd versus jock mentality that goes back to, like, the 1950s. And for a few decades following the 1950s, that, it kind of haunted geeks with, like, geeks who read comic books and the ones who played the tabletop board games and yada, yada, yada. But then video games kind of were the equalizer. And at first, games were still kind of nerdy, and a little bit to this day, but they've made so much progress where now that jock who used to make fun of you for being a nerd is getting teabagged because you 360 no-scoped him in Call of Duty. And almost every modern human plays video games or has contact with technology that has access to, like, Angry Birds in your iPhone. And people nowadays are so open to playing interactive games because they're so easy to access and they're fun to play and they're stimulating. So, yeah, those jocks who had nothing to do with nerd stuff like playing Madden and like playing Call of Duty. I mean, it's not like they're playing Final Fantasy, which is, like, I consider more of a nerd game. That's more of a nerd, that's more for the geekier gamer. But there's that middle ground that they met where, once again, those muscleheads, and I say that not to be rude to them, that's just the stereotype that existed for them, are starting to hang out with the bookworms via the internet because technology is leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
That's a change. That's a social change. Does that make sense at all? I want you to think I'm like some crazy person making things up.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. I would word it a bit differently, but yeah, that's
just
pretty much
on the fly. It's just what I think. Technology is just.
Because to be honest, I wouldn't use Call of Duty and Madden as examples.
Yeah. I guess.
Why not?
Oh, because that's part of that hyper masculine like image.
Well, I'm not talking about gender stuff. I'm talking about like geeks versus jocks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, gender stuff. No, that's different. Gender stuff, I use things like Angry Birds and Fruit Ninja and Minecraft is a huge one. Things like that where that's brought a lot of people to the table who might not have played games before because technology is changing the way we look at things and do things. Yeah, Pokemon's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
And there's those games where it's like, it's not just for guys or just for girls. It's not just for muscleheads. It's not just for nerds. Society, since technology is changing the way we live our everyday lives, now it's like you have to adapt the technology if you want to make it in this world. You need to have an iPhone. You need to have an email address. You got to be online, connected, or you're going to be left in the dust. And that means you have to get along with the nerds.
It's also societal progression. I mean, think about where we were 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I mean, there was a lot more like, you know, segregation of people and things like that, and it's just like that's completely changing now, and there's way more debates about liberating people to a certain freedom where they feel like everyone is equal. Like, you know, that sort of ideal is becoming way more common. So I feel like this is just the icing on that kind of cake. Like the Brony fandom is just one mode of trying to level a playing field where, you know, you can say guys can watch a show for girls, or, you know, or for any kind of demographic, and it doesn't just fall into this gender boundary.
Well,
so.
A big part of it, I think it's really interesting. I gotta stop talking after a while. I want to ruin part 3. But another interesting reason of why, like, so many guys...
We also should get into another question, too.
But yeah. This is my last point, is one of the reasons why so many guys, like older guys, and older girls as well, like this show, is because a lot of us are 90s kids, or close to it, and we grew up in an era of just Cartoon Network, Disney, and Nickelodeon, and Saturday morning cartoons. We had it all. And then animation kind of started to die off because it's just... computer animated cartoons started to kind of replace them, and those studios that used to animate kind of started going out of business, and they just went away. And then My Little Pony shows up back in 2010, and it's like, oh my god, animation's returning. Okay, it's ponies. Oh, Lauren Faust, that's kind of cool. That's why I liked it. That's why I started watching it to begin with. I had no intention of doing anything to, you know, challenge gender norms. I just wanted to watch cartoons again because I haven't seen a new cartoon forever up to that point. Those are very few and far between. And to see someone like, oh, Tara Strong, she was Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls. That was cool to hear. And I gave it a shot, and I loved it. So I think our generation is our generation grew up with cartoons, and we have a lot of sentiment towards cartoons. And the fact that we had a cartoon come back in 2010, right around when a lot of us were in late high school, or, you know, mid-high school, or early college, mid-college, I don't know, it kind of hit home for me. It kind of recalled me back to my childhood, and I really enjoyed that. But whatever, that's just, I'm sorry for just, you know, spouting off now, but... Alright, next question?
Okay, here's a couple of them. A couple of important ones that I want to have answered. Let's see. Well, guys, how do you feel about the Brony community after working on... Oh, wait, we already answered that one. Oh, what prompted you to make this documentary in the first place?
I don't know. Weren't we just in the call and we said we should do something together and do a documentary?
Yeah.
Humble beginning is extremely humble. We're like, yeah, well, you made a doc, I made a doc. Hey, let's make a better one. We can combine our sources and our resources and cover more about the Brony fandom. Because I saw people in the comments saying, oh, this is a lot like ballads. Well, I was like, yeah, well, of course it is. It covers the same information that had to be covered. But that's because it's necessary to move on to part 2 and part 3. But yeah, you and I, we like a couple months, 14 months ago, we decided to work together on this.
Yeah.
That was cool.
So, next question. Throughout the production of this documentary, what has been your biggest bump in the road?
What do you guys think? Besides the render.
Besides the rendering, yeah. For me, I guess, personally, it was like trying to convince myself that it's going to happen. Because for quite a long time, for like months and months, I thought it wasn't going to happen. Because things, like, always getting delayed, things not getting finished on time, just a lot of that. And I sort of fell into a little depression because everything wasn't like coming out as it should. And
a little bit of intimidation from the other documentary as well, because they're moving along and we're like, ugh. But I think we got our second wind like around February of this year, or a few months ago, when we had the script done and we had our first cut complete. That was a really big. That was a motivation boost, and that's when we realized we can actually do this and make it happen, and make it work. So yeah, there are times when we kind of got down on ourselves, and that happens with anybody if you're undertaking something of this magnitude. But I also think picking up people along the way, like BVids and Feedsy and Mumble, was also a morale booster, where we're like, we have a team who's very capable, and we can do this. We can make something awesome, and here we are.
Well said.
okay, here's an interesting question. Where did you guys find most of your information, or did you just use Wikipedia? You guys probably didn't, but just making sure.
We rarely use Wikipedia. Like when I wrote this, a lot of it's research I remember doing back in the day with Battle. Like, I mean, there's some of the basics, of course, like from Wikipedia, but I'd go back and watch the panels from the conventions with Lauren and the writers and the voice actors to make sure we got it from their mouths, and to double check and make sure everything was solid.
Yeah, the only things from Wikipedia mainly are the screenshots of like what shows the voice actors have been in.
Well, those are listed properly in IMDb.
Well, that's like IMDb, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, if anyone asks for your sources, just email the NSA, so they got it on file. They're ready to give it out.
They got your back.
But yeah, I'm going to create a source list sometime soon, probably next week, and I'll have it in the credits document.
Yeah.
I got a question for the live stream. What was your favorite part of the doc? And I know you all probably start flooding. Actually, okay, no, pause. If you guys can, message the Tumblr with your favorite part of the doc, just so we know what you all think. I mean, we love feedback. We love to see what we can do to improve in part 2, because we always feel like we can keep making a better documentary for you all. So let me get can you have the link to the Tumblr, Paleo?
Yeah.
Link it in the chat. If you all can message us, just tell us what you liked the most and what you enjoyed. There you go. We really appreciate your feedback. AC Race Best in the store. I can't tell you how many things happened in this documentary where it was just like, oh, we stumbled across an opportunity and we made it happen. Like Race Best with that. That was
Originally, we just had shots of pictures of toy aisles, but then I was like, no, we can have something better than that. And then I thought of Race doing a skit. So
that was a good idea from Paleo. Paleo is really good at refining ideas and having really good quirky ideas that just work. And also, like here, I was talking about how things change along the way. BVids, his story was interesting because around, I think it was like early January or whatever, you came out with, or it was late December, I forget exactly. You came out with your 6th PMV. And at the time, I was talking to Feedsy and Isaac and Omega Ozone, who are some other visual artists we have on our documentary team, about putting together the intro visual. And I'm like, I want some inspiration. I'm trying to pull off this orb thing and this abstract art that just flows and looks pretty. And then 6 came out, and BVids had a very beautiful PMV with orbs and how the ponies were in the orbs, and it was really just, it flowed. It was great. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Feeds, you check out this video. This is exactly what I had in mind. Man, maybe BVids, we can talk to him. And we spoke to you, and you were like, hey, I'm willing to even help out more if you need my help at all. And I'm like, sign me up!
Sign me up!
And you were a huge help, so it's kind of funny how we just kind of stumble across opportunity like that.
Yeah.
I got to make a good friend through the process. 2 friends.
Likewise, likewise. Well, just
But,
wait for Fiesta Equestria. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody asked if Lauren Faust tweeted or commented on your doc saying she liked it on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you be?
100.
How excited would you be?
I'd flip out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the highest honor you can achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of hope to maybe email it to her or something like, hey, you know, you're a very busy person, but we made something that you might enjoy. I don't know. Because there's so much fan content out there, and a lot of it, I'm sure she'd be like, I can't watch it because it pains me to watch it. It reminds me of just, you know, having to leave the series behind. But if she ever like his Larson, I think he messaged like, you know, we gotta speak to you guys about this documentary. Of course, he was saying it in a joking way. But like, I know that Daniel Ingram, for example, he watched Ballad, and I freaked out when I found out about that. And I mean, we didn't go in this to get praise from the staff. We made this so other people who are either just, you know, fans or not fans to enjoy and appreciate it and learn more about this fandom. If the staff so happens to watch along the way, then that's just icing on the cake. Like, dude, if Lauren liked it, I'd be like, wow, poof. Yeah, what's up? We were getting criticism. I'll just point you to that tweet.
Here's an interesting question. How even is the writing between you split? So, originally I was going to start writing out a lot of stuff, but for some reason, I don't know why, I just couldn't. Like, my brain just went dead when we were starting to write out the first part. And because around May last year, I said we should get the script done this month. That was never gonna happen.
Lol.
so that way we could have like.
Don't worry, we'll have the doc done by July this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
and the constant pushbacks of rendering and other technical problems you guys probably had.
Ironically, from those problems, we had opportunity. So, but every time we pushed back to the release, we picked up something along the way where it's like, okay, we have to wait another month because of the writing process taking too long. But oh my gosh, we just picked up a new animator who's making a 4chan section for us. We just picked up a better editor, musician. It's like you take the good with the bad. And at the end, the bad really isn't that bad at all, and the great and the good really shows in quality, and it's like, yeah, this is worth it. But Paleo, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that Saber he wrote most of the documentary, and then I would say if something sounded stupid.
You always need proofreading from other people, guys. I guess I consider myself a writer, and not like a fantastic writer, and not like a fictional writer for stories, not by any means. But I know how to write a paper, and I don't consider myself like extremely gifted, like those people who write articles for like those academic resources and whatnot. But my heart was in this, and I really wanted to see it come to fruition. So, 150 pages later, Brony Chronicles is, you know, almost complete for all 3 sections. I need to finish some more in part 2, and I need to reread through part 3 and proofread it. Like what you originally come up with is going to change a lot, because you'll find mistakes, you'll find things that work better, things that don't work at all, throw it out. There's no, if you need to start over. Like, take it down on a piece of paper, jot down your main ideas and notes that you want to keep, and then start over. There's no shame in that. I started over on section 1 so many times, but it finally just felt like right to me. And then I sent over to Paleo and other people to give it a good proofread and see how things sounded to them, and catch mistakes. So the core of the writing was from me. Like, I guess I was the one who kind of storyboarded and wrote the main things for this, the main backbone for this documentary, and then everybody else helped with refining it and making it flow better.
Yeah.
Would you say that's fair enough to say?
Yeah. Okay. We
got 15 more minutes left, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah. Did you at all get any of your research from the Friendship is Magic MLP from collector sites like MLP Arena, or people like Casey from the Brony Clubhouse?
Can you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Did you get any of your research on Friendship is Magic MLP from collector sites, or people like Casey from the Brony Clubhouse?
Casey's a wealth of knowledge, and we had a chance to talk to her, but Equestria was too busy, and we
were already pretty far along.
Yeah, the doc was
Yeah.
well, the premiere cut was done.
Yeah.
Not really. We did our own research, like where. I mean, we didn't cover too much of the pre-Friendship is Magic stuff because we didn't want to get too, off the beaten path. So,
Yeah.
just the
I've
basic
seen
stuff.
I've seen most of My Little Pony Tales, and I'm not sure how I've seen about half of Generation 1, and I'm not sure how much I've seen of G3, but
Oop, phone.
anyway, I just looked into what the shows were like, because mainly we were talking about the cartoon and not the toys. We did cover the toys briefly because we wanted to.
This is
See how
not the
this
same
track-
thing as G2, and guys, G2 animation never existed. It's easy to say, My Little Ponytails is G2, which isn't true though. Oh, fudge! That was a big old roach. Ew.
Ew.
God, what the heck? The storms tend to bring out the worst of these critters.
Somebody
My
said
house is usually immaculate. What the heck is he got? What's this guy even doing here? Ugh.
So, somebody said, will you be releasing unused content on your channels after all the parts are done? For the moment, after we have part 2 and part 3 up, we're going to have unused content, some like bonus content and commentary on the DVDs that we're sending out to the backers. So we probably won't have that stuff up until much later in the year, because we kind of want to have it exclusive to the backers for a little bit.
Yeah.
So. Okay, let me refresh. Hey, the one thing I liked in the documentary is the roster that was used in the interviews, plus the animations that worked in the dialogue. But I kind of felt like the intro to the video was a bit too long. It kind of dragged on for a little bit of time, but other than that, yeah, it was a very well made documentary, and it is awesome.
I can explain a little bit more about that. The intro visual went through a lot of changes, and it's funny because we were going to use a completely different song for the longest time and some different storyboard that I was working on with Feetsy. And then Food Dogs finished the song, and we were both like, we got to use this instead. And then the Orb idea came up, and we started rolling with that. But, I mean, okay, so you have to realize that the people who work on this documentary are volunteers, and I can only ask as much as they're willing to give. And Feetsy and the guys have given so much of their time that I wish I could pay them for, but they're doing this out of the goodness of their own hearts. And there were suggestions they gave to Feetsy for the intro, like, hey, maybe you can put down directed and blah, blah, blah with the credits and put some credits in the intro. But I guess he had another idea with doing more abstract art and visuals and trying to convey feelings instead. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I want you to have as much creative room as you possibly can. Make something awesome. Go for it. And he did. So, yeah, it kind of drags on, but it's like a good problem to have. It's like, it's a really impressive visual. It kind of gets the viewer pumped up to watch the doc. And if they don't like it, they can just skip through it. Whatever.
Okay. You remember you asked people to send in what they liked, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna read off a few. Visuals were awesome. Information was great too. One thing I would like to see, if you had the footage, was to show you to exploring conventions. You'll see that in the next 2 parts. The history of the Forum Wars, as well as the show's different histories, was really good. Of course, the opener was awesome.
Thank you.
Favorite part? When you actually talked about Friendship is Magic.
Thank you. That's the second section of part 1.
Yeah. I think they're referring to as opposed to the other documentary.
Oh, lol.
Anyway, best part of the doc was when it made me consider actually watching some of the not so bad older generation with decent villains. Yeah, one of the villains that I was very surprised by was Grogar, who's that evil demon goat thing. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a pretty badass guy.
Let's see. Because I already saw Battle of the Brony and knew most of the info, I enjoyed the visual and audio feast laid out in front of me. Well done. Yeah, we kind of wanted this to, look as good as it could.
Something different, because we don't want to think of the ballad rehashed.
Okay. So here's something from the loyal Brony. From all that you've learned in making this documentary, do you have any advice you'd want to give to others, undertaking a huge project of their own?
Huh. What do you guys think?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Paleo go first, and then I'll say my piece.
Actually, I gotta use the bathroom while y'all talking.
Unless,
I would.
3 hours.
I would say, try to know, like, the extent of the project you're making. Otherwise, you might be a little bit overwhelmed. I definitely felt a bit overwhelmed, a lot of the time while making this. But one thing I would say is not to get discouraged while doing it, because you may feel overwhelmed, but you know, in the end, it's worth it. So.
Okay. I'll just say organization is a huge lifesaver. So when you make like a project like this, and it's going to be mainly on the computer, like issues we ran into that we've learned from are like, you know, keeping things in place. And so like when you actually try to get this project all together, you don't just have a bunch of footage and a bunch of project assets that like don't work for you in the end because you don't know where those files are. So management and organization is great. The only other thing I'll say is yeah, keep a good mind and plan ahead for like really what you want to say and what you want to do, like what your message is going to be, because like I said before, I mean, you can just have a bunch of footage and it'll mean nothing if you really don't have like an idea or a story for what to do with it. So that's it.
Paleo, you shared your thoughts yet?
Yeah, I did.
I got the tail end of that BVids, and I'm just gonna agree. Like, when it comes to making big projects like this, I mean, I've put off a lot of things in my own life to devote my time to working on this project. I could have had a career by now, possibly. I could have had my own place, yada yada yada, whatever. I was investing though. After I started this and really put my, I guess, soul into it, I didn't want to just quit and throw it away, because I would never, I guess, forgive myself for backing down from this project. And I saw an opportunity as well. And I've learned so much from working on this documentary. I've learned how to be a better writer, editor, work with people. I've earned new traits now. But as far as making your own project, yeah, like BVids was saying, have an idea you feel passionate about, and because at the end of the day, passion will always beat out technical, special effects and things like that. At least that's my opinion. Something with a good idea with a solid backbone that's presented properly will always be better than something that's shiny and pretty, because that usually ends up being shallow and can't hold up. Like, take the old Star Wars trilogy, the ones made back in the 70s. Those had a lot of heart put into them, and the new ones had all the special effects you can ask for, but they just felt like they were lacking a story, and they didn't have the same heart. So that's a great example of an idea with passion, and one that has all the money you could ask for to make it, but was lacking that critical factor of having a good idea and a good passion. So yeah.
Okay. Question: Is the third part also? Oh, I guess, will the third part also have content about fans about the social impacts? And if so, would you agree to some suggestions?
Can you say it one last time just so I can make sure I heard that right?
I think they're asking, will the third part have content from fans about the social impacts? And if so, would you agree to some suggestions?
Content from fans about the social impacts, like analysis videos?
I don't know.
I'm having a hard time understanding that question. I'm not sure how to respond to that. I mean, if there's like take for example cosplay, how some of the guys wear pink dresses and they're like, don't care, walking around wearing like a Pinkie Pie dress. That's pretty crazy, because you have a guy who's a male who should be masculine wearing a Pinkie Pie costume. That's a pretty interesting case study worth discussing about sociology and gender roles and social norms and whatnot. So I guess I hope that satisfies an answer.
Saber, am I the only one that noticed you said brownies at one point in the first part?
I said brownies.
Did you?
I thought I said brownies.
Because I didn't hear it.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm probably hungry. All right, let's get one last good question.
Okay, let's see.
Make it count.
Here's a couple of like short questions. Wait, here's a good one. How will Saber and Paleo plan their schedules for doing part 2 and 3? The both of you seem to have a lot on your plate, and I was wondering how much free time you will use towards the next 2 parts in comparison to anything you do for your individual YouTube channels.
Until this doc's done, I probably won't be doing that much of my own personal projects and videos. I'm going to wait till we're done with this battle before opening up a new front.
Yeah.
Still like making content, just this documentary is bigger than my other ideas, and I want to finish it. Oh,
Let's see.
So we can get one more good one. One more for the road. Do 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 do. Got it. Got it.
I'm trying to find a really good one to leave off on.
Oh, is it coming up short? No. Paleo. We have to end it on a good one. Paleo.
Let's see. I guess this is sort of technically like the other question. Let's see. What were some big problems that encountered while making this documentary? Did it affect things? Also, I really enjoyed this. Oh, one thing we didn't mention was originally Tommy XZ was going to do the intro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He actually hasn't made anything in a long time.
He kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But
he had his own thing he had to take care of, or he wanted. I got a message from him and he said, "I'm sorry, Saber, I just can't do this. I'm sorry. I have other things in my mind and I can't put my heart into it." And I'm like, "That's fine." And that was after Candlelight Gardens. And it's funny how like you're like, "Oh no, I lost my visual artist. This sucks. It's the end." And then we pick up like Isaac, who's SharePoint, Omega Ozone, and then Feedsy, and eventually BVids. So we lost one, and we got 4 replacements who were gave us amazing work. So a problem turns into an awesome vantage point or advantage. All right, let's go ahead and close this out. Are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for Brony Breakdown tonight. It's been a fun episode. It's been an honor to present this doc to you all, and we really appreciate your viewership and your support. And this is just the first part of 3, and we'll keep y'all posted on the progress of the rest of the documentary. So thank you all so much for your support and whatnot. Brony Breakdown next week will probably be just the same old. Wait, next week is the 20th. Yeah. So yeah, next week will be another casual episode. Just doing content and talking about news and whatnot. So that shouldn't be anything crazy. And if you haven't seen the documentary yet, guys, go check it out. It's on my channel. And once again, thank you for all your support. Talk to you all later.
Bye.
BVids, you have to say goodbye. No, say it louder.
Bye.
Louder!
Bye, everyone.
No, he's usually not that serious. He's actually a really laid back guy. Right, BVids?
Yeah.
Fine, don't say anything funny.
Shabooples.
Where'd you get that from?
That animation that made fun of that show that's Big Bang Theory. Shaboople.